What's up? Welcome in. Hoge Jahns with you from our very Arizona hotel rooms. Is that a word? Arizona?
Arizonian?
Arizonian hotel rooms. That's probably better put. We are not in the same hotel or even remotely close, but it does look very similar, I do have to say. We are still in the desert. We are still trying to figure out what happened yesterday. That was bad. That was bad, Johnsy.
They got their butts kicked. It was a humbling loss in many facets. And Adam, I just can't escape the feeling that, well, here we go again. I wrote that in my column. I know you're feeling it. I know some of my colleagues are feeling it. I know this is all new for a lot of the Bears front office, Bears coaches, some Bears players, but similar things tend to unfold here in Chicago with the Bears. And I'm just struck with the feeling like, here we go again. Like, we know what happens next. And even though we got 9 games left in the season.
Yeah, it's a very predictable cycle that the Bears just seem to find themselves in. They got to look at it as they got 9 games. Hey, Kent, we are live this morning. My voice is struggling. Kent, I'm just letting you know we can hear you typing.
Oh, my bad.
No, it's all good. So, there's been a lot of talking this weekend too. So Johns is going to carry me to the finish line of this show. What I was saying there though is, this is all a very predictable cycle that the Bears find themselves in. Would you say we know what's coming next? We're talking, coaching changes whenever that happens, and then we're talking, here they go again, having to hire a new coach with the quarterback going into
Already
year 2.
here.
All and then everyone who and they weren't wrong. I think it was a complicated situation at the end of last season, but I kept saying for those that were like, make the change now just to line up the quarterback appropriately. Those thoughts are right now seem like they're validated. In the meantime, though, there are 9 games left on the schedule. The next 9 are way tougher than what these first 8 have been, and they only managed to win 4 of the 8. So it seems like an incredibly hard uphill climb to not go down the road that we're talking about right now, which is why we're talking about it. And I don't know, but they got to be sitting there at House Hall this morning as they're back in, Lake Forest, searching for answers, searching for what they can do, Johnsy. I don't know. I think it has to start, though, with the offensive coordinator. I mean, if you're looking for something to change this quickly, because I don't really know what other solutions there are, other than making a head coaching change right now, which seems very, very unlikely based on how the Bears typically operate. Even firing an offensive coordinator, in the middle season would be not like the Bears. But guess what? We saw it last night with a guy we know well in Luke Getsy. After the game, Raiders said that's enough, and they got rid of 3 coaches. They got rid of the quarterback's coach and the offensive line coach too.
Well, one thought on the Getsy situation. Well, that's kind of what you get when your quarterbacks are Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. Just some things are just based in the roster and the talent that you have. And I'm not defending Luke Getsy, but to bring this back to the Bears, like, you're always asking yourself, at least, as a writer, like, okay, where did this go wrong? And I'm sure they're asking themselves at House Hall too, like, where did this go wrong? Your recency bias tells you it's offensive coordinator. Like, you just saw Cliff Kingsbury in Washington. He could have been your OC, and you're left looking for answers a week later again after another bad offensive performance against the middle-of-the-pack team in the Arizona Cardinals, a team you thought, based on the statistics, the numbers, that Caleb Williams should have had a good day. He did not. So the question I have for you, Adam, is, do you think it's possible? I don't know if they're going to fire Shane Waldron, but could they do like a Matt Nagy and like he could replace himself as offensive coordinator? Like, is there another play caller they can go to that's not Shane Waldron in the building?
But then what does Shane Waldron do? He
Fair
becomes the
enough.
passing game coordinator. They just swap with Thomas Brown.
You think there's a possibility that they could fire him?
I think almost every other NFL franchise in the league would be looking at this and going, you've had 8 games here. You are it started in week 1 with some very odd personnel decisions. Um and here we are 8 weeks later, and they appear to have a really good tight end who has had 1 target the last 2 weeks. That's inexcusable. And it's partially maybe on Caleb, but scheme something up for the guy, right? And then and you didn't even use him in week 1. You had Gerald Everett play more than Cole Kmet in week 1. So there's been a trend here of not knowing how to use the personnel you have. Multiple egregious, inexcusable play calls in the low red zone. And then yesterday, on top of all that, you just got completely outcoached. I mean, I was watching a little bit of the tape already this morning. Baldy had a great breakdown, giving the Cardinals a lot, and that is a part of this too. Like the Cardinals should get credit. Jonathan Gannon is doing incredible job there, quickly getting that thing turned around. But Nick Rallis, their defensive coordinator, I mean, dialing up the pressures at the right time, bringing it from the right spots. And you had a situation where across the board, you had an offensive line, a rookie quarterback, receivers who didn't get open, but it all comes back to the plan from the very beginning and the inability to find any answers mid-game. So when you add all that up through 8 games, with the most important part being Caleb Williams, because that's another thing that we got to talk about here in terms of the cycle. It would be hard to argue that they have put Caleb Williams in a position to have success, to develop right now with what we've seen, especially the last couple weeks. And then the optics of Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury on top of that. It's just, I don't, but the other part of this, Johns, then becomes, is that going to change anything? I mean, I think you got to do it because you have so many coaches in there and that like someone's got to have some different ideas. They can all be in agreement that what they're doing is the right thing.
I've never covered a Bears team with this large of a coaching staff. Because okay, a couple things can be true here. Like Caleb Williams is struggling, but it's also like Shane Waldron's job to help him not to struggle. Does that make sense? To make things easier for him, to set him up for success. So when you see like Caleb Williams struggling to get to his checkdowns or not throwing to his checkdowns, you almost wonder what the messaging is. Like what's going on behind the scenes. Like why is Shane Waldron calling such things where the checkdowns come out so late and Caleb Williams can't get to him in his progression? Why is this so continuously difficult? And then Adam, on top of this, like if you're going to fire Shane Waldron, if you're going to allow Matt Eberflus to get rid of Shane Waldron midseason, that's where we are right now, midseason with the Bears, right? What does that mean for Matt Eberflus? Are you going to let him hire a third offensive coordinator, even though that's an internal promotion? Like that just seems to be, I don't know, kicking the can down the road a little bit, right? Like we all know what that means. I just don't know how many chances a head coach gets to pick his offensive coordinator when all these offensive coordinators are getting fired.
Yeah, I just think it's got to be a matter of, is there someone else in that room that you feel like can help Caleb better? Because that's what that's got to be at this point what the focus of the rest of the season needs to be about. I find it very difficult to find 5 more wins on the schedule, which is the minimum of what they're going to need to be able to make the playoffs. This needs to be about making sure that what happened yesterday here in Arizona never happens again. So I just go back to I don't think it's going to solve everything, obviously, but if it's Thomas Brown,
It has to be Thomas Brown.
Yeah. Well, it could be Kerry Joseph. Like if they like what he's doing with Caleb, as his position coach, it would probably be more likely to be Thomas Brown, who called plays in Carolina last year with Bryce Young. Now,
who has experiences good and bad with a rookie quarterback.
I think on a piece of paper, what I just said does not sound like a resume builder, but he also knows what didn't work, and obviously, one of the things that didn't work was Bryce Young. So maybe the results will be better with Caleb Williams. I don't know, man. It's not like the Bears to make reactionary moves. Pretty much all we've seen is what you talked about, where you had a head coach play caller who just gave up play calling duties. But that's not really a firing, right? Like, I mean, it kind of is. He to fire himself, but
he fired himself
one job,
three or four times. Matt Nagy agreed with himself with play calling. But I will say, like, in that instance, you had a young quarterback in Mitch Trubisky struggling to do what the offensive coordinator wanted him to do, right? And Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy turned his play calling over to Bill Lazor. And for a period of time, you saw a better Mitch Trubisky. You saw the completion percentage go up. You saw the touchdown percentage go up. You saw more boots, more play action. The offense worked better, albeit against some bad teams, if I remember correctly. But the offense seemed to find something that worked for Mitch Trubisky. I think that's the question you got to have at Halas Hall. Like, what can we do to make this work for Caleb Williams every single week? Because it's not working. It's just not working.
Yeah. And you don't see any scenario in which they would fire Flus, right?
I would be beyond shocked if they fire Matt Eberflus during the season. I know the first question after that, well, what about Kevin Warren? This is different, right? Under Kevin Warren. I'm like, well, Kevin Warren's kind of got his hands full trying to build a stadium in downtown Chicago, and that's not exactly going well for him right now. It's not working. It's not going to happen. Yeah. So I don't know. George McCaskey, under his leadership, there's been a resistance to fire coaches during the season. I think he just hates it. He hates the optics of it. He wants to play this out until the end for a full evaluation, whatever that means. I would be beyond shocked if they moved on from Matt Eberflus during the season.
What did you make of Matt Eberflus? Because, from my seat where I, obviously did shows all last week, but was not in Washington, D.C., was not, I was on the conference call Monday, but was not, I was at the game yesterday, but not at all the media availability afterwards. It seemed like a sudden shift for me starting at halftime with his talk with Evan Washburn of a sudden, I'm going to take accountability for all this now. Like the tone, the words just all of a sudden changed. It went from players got to execute. Well, now this is, he even put the offense in yesterday's press conference on him. What do you make of that?
I'm sure he's heard some of the criticisms out there, to be honest. The criticism of him not taking accountability publicly and accepting blame for his team's failures. But at the same time, dude, rewatch that play. Like, his play call is fine. Some of your best players are just getting their asses blocked. Sorry for my swearing. It's just true. Like, watch it. His linebackers blocked. Jalen Johnson blocked. Kevin Byard blocked. 53-yard run should not happen in that situation. You still had to shell the defense there, as he explained. The pressure, it's fine. If you want to try to get the ball out quickly on them to get out of the field goal range, like, I understand the logic, and it's fine if he wants to take blame. But if you watch that, there's a lot of Bears defenders who are just being blocked by one guy.
Johns, that was worse than the Hail Mary. I mean, giving up was it 53 yards?
53 yards to the third string running back.
Like, it's one thing to throw the ball that far and have, like, one guy out of position, the ball gets bounced, and it's a Hail Mary. To actually give up that run in that situation, I would argue is worse than the Hail Mary. I mean,
well, it definitely
so
looks worse from more players. Like,
right.
the Hail Mary looked worse for Tyreek Stevens. Out of all players, that's on him. But to see the amount of players blocked in that 53-yard touchdown run, like, there's a long list of players you could point to for loafing or whatever you want to do inside Alice Hall.
Yeah. Also relevant to, I mean, what we're talking about here with the Bears. Dennis Allen got fired right before we went on live this morning. Head coach of the Saints, Darren Rizzi, their special teams coordinator, one of the better special teams coordinators in the league. It will be the interim head coach, it looks like, from what I'm seeing on Twitter right now. So, yeah, that would just not be like the Bears to go down that road. I think what's interesting, though, about this situation, if you take the schedule part out of it, which doesn't look good, like they're more talented than the Saints. They're more talented than the Raiders, who just fired Luke Getsy. You know what I mean? Like, there is a world where maybe some type of shift in messaging or game planning or leadership actually results in a surprise win over the Packers or beating the Lions, which looks really hard right now because the Lions are just rolling. Yeah, but it just, again, it does. I get why the fans are calling for it. I mean, I'll give you this nugget from Kent, and this will be a good transition to our voicemails. Kent told me that we had over 150 voicemails yesterday, and 100 of them were about Matt Eberflus. He also said that some people just call the line and like vent for like 4 or 5 minutes sometimes.
Hey, we're here for everyone,
which is great. As long as you guys realize that your 4-minute voicemail is not getting on the show, you are free to call the voicemail line and just let it rip. Should we go to the voicemails?
Yes, clear your voice.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Let's hear somebody else.
Yeah,
hit it again.
Please. Yeah.
Hello? Do you know who this is?
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody!
The Hoge Jahns voicemail. The Hoge Jahns voicemail line.
Believe it or not, George isn't at home. Please leave a message at the beep.
Got any questions or comments about the Bears? Give the guys a call before, after, or even during the game.
Go Bears!
Hoge Jahns and Bet, Bob Dabrowski calling in live from AZ, the blistering sunshine. Boys, I put this on the Twitter, but it bears repeating. I think the only way that Matt Eberflus can gain my respect and the respect of the city of Chicago is to run a fullback dive with Doug Kramer on play 1. That would be hilarious. I don't think he has the balls to do it. Who knows what's going to happen with this game? I'm done predicting scores with this team anymore. It's just too hard. And I don't know. Go Bears. We got this is a must-win. Eberflus's career is on the line today. He loses this game, it's officially over. It's over in my heart and my head, but it could be officially over if they lose today. And to this team, they got to win. Got to win if they want any chance at making a push this year. Let's go Bears. Bear down.
Hoge Jahns, I am fired the up. There is no way you can tell me this team comes out flatter than shit in a game that is a must win. Pardon the language, boys. This team looks horrible.
Do we just call Mercedes Lewis to come in so he can be like, oh, let me commit my first penalty of the day and then come right out?
For the love of God, please just fire Eberflus.
Just imagine if the Bears were as good at scoring points as they are at getting penalties.
What the do these loser-ass coaches do all week? It's like they've never seen a football game in their life before. Leave them in Arizona.
Halftime, Keenan and Rome dropping balls, penalties everywhere, the touchdown right before the half. I'm choosing to believe this team doesn't suck, and they're just committing an active mutiny against Eberflus, Waldron, and everyone else involved.
Flus is gone. There's no reason to keep Flus as our coach. 2 weeks in a row, less than 20 seconds left on the clock, and they score a touchdown. He's got to go.
Eberflus in the desert. His team's given up on him. What garbage.
Hoge Jahns Bear, calling in live from State Farm Stadium. This team looks bad. This team looks real, real bad. Honestly, I think the best player might be Tory Taylor.
Look, I'm at the point where I think Ryan Poles needs to start taking more heat. It was his decision to hire this clueless guy, and it was his decision to bring him back. We're lost. Bear down.
Could you imagine the Bears playing an actually good team? The 2024 Chicago Bears could not fight their way out of a wet paper bag.
Let me just say, I'm so happy it is not my job to sit and talk about and review Bears game footage. If I had either of your two jobs, it'd be all over.
And to think we have to sit through 2 more Green Bay Packer games yet? It sucks being a Bears fan.
You know what? Called the line and realized I don't even have the energy to leave a message. This team has just sucked the life out of me.
We need to have a serious discussion about whether or not to shut Caleb Williams down before he either gets murdered or ends up with the yips.
We might have the worst offensive line in the NFL, which is really cool because our GM is a former offensive lineman who can't evaluate offensive line talent.
Tyreek Stevenson is probably so happy right now because no one's going to be talking about him when they're all talking about Tory Taylor. Wow, what a free kick. Just when you think this game can't get any worse.
Hoge Jahns, Jersey Bay, Bob Dabrowski calling in after a Bears game here. This was a make or break game. This was an everything on the line game. This was a all the chips in, kitchen sink type game, and you got to give it to Coach Matt Eberflus. He came out there, and boy, oh boy, did he have his guys prepared to totally f*** it up and just shit the bed. He is just a piece of walking garbage. The guy cannot coach. I saw Johnsy Babe, you did the Fishman retweet there, and 24 times in the last, since 2018, he's given up the go-ahead score. This guy is trash. He's a nice guy, okay. Just God in heaven, get rid of the guy. Let's just end the year already. Can we get to 2025, please?
Hey, Bears fans, B-Man here. That was hard to watch. What the hell, man? Bear down, I guess.
Oh, man. B-Man's graduated to what the hell territory. That might have been certainly our best voicemails of the year, and up in there with our Hoge Jahns voicemail Hall of Fame too.
Yeah, we have a sad B-Man. Oh, we lost Bob. Bob's gone. He'll be back. He'll be back. But yeah,
pray for B-Man.
Yeah.
It's funny. I mean, good. Hey, look, you guys showed up. In the voicemails. The Bears fans showed up in Arizona too. I just want to, as we start our likes and dislikes, I wanted to start with that. I mean, I just extremely grateful for everybody that, stopped by yesterday to our CHGO events, but even just walking around, I'm sure you got it outside the stadium too, Johns, just walking around Westgate, the entertainment district right there, which you could have in Arlington Heights, if you want to. That was actually me fake clearing my voice.
Your throat.
No, yeah, no, that was actually a fake one. But just the amount of Bears fans and pretty much every single one of them shouting out Hoge Jahns too, even the ones who were at the CHGO event. So grateful for you guys, and as I always say, you guys deserve better than. Like 80% of that stadium was Bears fans. It was incredible, and I couldn't help but laugh, Johns, that the Bears weren't. I said this last night, but the first warning sign I had early on in the game that the Bears might be in trouble is that they were using the silent count in a home game.
Yeah, not good. Not
good.
Yeah.
I'm being serious about that. Yeah. They were trying inside the stadium to get their Cardinals fans to get loud on third down, and nobody was doing anything because they weren't there. They weren't there. And so if it looked like later on in the game, finally the Bears got away from the silent count because it wasn't necessary. It's like, what is happening?
There was a point when we were walking up to the game, Kevin Fishbane and I, and it was, I don't think we walked at least 200 yards without seeing one Arizona Cardinals fan. I'm not exaggerating this. There was a Bears fan next to us. He's like, he made the same remark. Like, this is something. I have not seen one single Cardinals fan. And this is 2 hours before the game. We eventually saw some as we got closer, but it was pretty remarkable.
They weren't even really there when the game got out of hand. Like, usually in that type of situation in the stands, like all of a sudden the Cardinals fans will get loud and they'll start chirping, go back to Chicago, all this stuff. Like, they weren't even really there to do that.
I got a kick out of it. They had their big screens were saying, everybody get up, get up, get up, to get loud, as the Cardinals fans. And all the Bears fans stood up and got loud.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was my first like, and then my first dislike. What do you want to start with on your end?
I don't like that I became convinced that this could be a different story because the Bears beat the heck out of the Carolina Panthers and Jacksonville Jaguars. I like that they routed those teams. To me, that was an indication that this could be different. It wasn't. I don't like that I was convinced by that because once they ran into some more competitive teams, I think you've seen some of the coaching failures come through, some of the player failures come through, and just some of the widespread organizational failures come through from this team. So I'm sorry, everybody. I don't like that I was convinced by what the Bears did against the Carolina Panthers and Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I was even critical of, our panel. We all picked the Bears to win this game, at CHGO. And it's one of those graphics that really looks bad after the fact. But, you could kind of see it coming pregame. We talked about pregame when we did our predictions yesterday. We then did our own level of confidence in our own predictions. And it was like by kickoff. I don't know if you were feeling the same way, Johns, but especially once Montez Sweat was inactive, you had all the Tyreek Stevenson noise in the morning with the Jay Glazer report, Courtney Cronin's follow-up, then Sweat's inactive. And then you start to, at least I was starting to get those feelings like, this is just, the vibes here seem way too familiar. Like I've been here in this situation before. I've seen this go down this road. And that's why, if you're somebody who thinks the Bears should make a change right now, that would be probably the most convincing argument is that, okay, they've never done it. Well, we've seen this thing go way off the rails really quickly. Partially maybe because of that. So maybe they need to be thinking with Kevin Warren there that something needs to be different. I don't know. By the way, I saw already on Twitter that the Saints, who just fired Dennis Allen, had never fired a coach midseason under this ownership group. And I think it's the first time since 1980 that the Saints made a head coaching change midseason. So just because you don't do things in the past doesn't mean you shouldn't change that.
Well, I guess this is where Kevin Warren comes in terms of what his influence is, what he could convince George McCaskey to do. I'd still be stunned if it happens. And I stand by those words.
Same, but you know what? I would not be stunned if they made a move with Shane Waldron. And I'll say this too. If you are going to make that move on offense, I think it'd be much better to do it now than wait till next week, because at least you're playing the Patriots this week. It's kind of like a soft landing spot for a new OC to get his feet wet. I don't know that I want to have a new play caller going into a game against the Packers in 2 weeks.
I don't like that in the locker room now they're starting to blame the media, or they're starting to bring up the media. Tyreek Stevenson did it. Jalen Johnson did it. I don't like that that's a narrative coming out of the locker room. In my experience, that's typically another red flag. What I think of most is, the Mark Trestman era, when Brandon Marshall turned on the media and other players turned on the media. The media wasn't the problem. The media wasn't a problem. We were just covering stories that were coming out of your locker room. So to hear Tyreek Stevens say that. Hold on, let me read this quote.
Was he? I was wondering about that because obviously I wasn't there for it. Was he? Was he mad about the Jay Glazer thing in the morning, or was it like the whole week?
Maybe. I think it was the whole week. Which I have another just like attached to this, but this is Tyreek Stevenson in the locker room after the game. I feel like I was just tested as far as the media, as far as proving to my guys I'm not going to let the media bring me down, and just proving to the whole building that one play doesn't define me, which that is true. And when I get my opportunity, just come out and do what I did today. Now, he did play well. He had 7 tackles, two pass breakups, one right at the goal line. Although I think they kind of hit him in his back. So, but he still got credit for it. And then you have Caleb Williams. They're talking about the media and the Tyreek Stevenson coverage because of the Hail Mary, right? Fine, whatever. But then you have Caleb Williams, and I don't like this either, say that he thought the team didn't get over the Hail Mary quick enough.
Well, I agree with that. I think they lost 2 games on one play.
Do you want me to read that quote?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the stink of that Hail Mary got on the flight to Arizona. I don't think there's any question.
So this is Caleb Williams. Early on in the week, I think we could have done a better overall job of bouncing back after that. Could have done better overall of bouncing back after that. I know it's a tough loss. It's tough regardless of who you are in the facility. If you were out there making plays, if you're making decisions up top. So being better at that, understanding that we do have many more games left after that, and being able to be a family, and move on from that, and have the right leaders, which we do. We have the right guys to do things like that, which is bounce back from things like that. And we've got to do it this week. He was asked to clarify. He said we needed to move on quicker from that Hail Mary loss.
Yeah. You know what, Johns, I wish I had thought about this earlier. Maybe we bring this conversation back Wednesday. But you remember, I think it was after this Colts loss, probably. We did basically what is our concern level about Matt Eberflus, Shane Waldron, Caleb Williams. We might want to revisit that, but I think our concern levels about Waldron have certainly continued.
Skyrocketed.
Yeah. And Flus. The Caleb conversation is tricky right now because I mean and it's a familiar conversation, and it's a place that no one wants to be with the rookie quarterback here after 8 weeks. But I thought yesterday was his worst game. Now, we can put all the excuses out there too. Play calling, obviously, we led the show with that. Waldron got completely outcoached by Nick Rallis. Offensive line was in shambles by the end of the game. I don't know if the Cardinals suddenly have the greatest cornerbacks of all time, but those wide receivers that you paid a lot of money, use draft capital on to get Rome. I mean, guys weren't really open, except for the ones that were wide open. But there was a lot of plays. Go watch Baldy's breakdown this morning of the Cardinals secondary. I mean, they're stuck like glue on the wide receivers. So once again, we're just in the situation of it's like who to blame, whose fault is it? I don't like the concepts. I thought there were way too many low percentage throws yesterday that were schemed up that way. Stop with all these fades. Your offensive line's under siege. Quick game. Get the ball out. I do hate fades. They're low percentage throws.
They are. Hey, Kent, there's this comment from Grant Johnson. Can we bring it up real quick? This is from Grant Johnson. Media was way overboard and lost last week. This week, maybe not. Winning does shut everyone up, though. Winning does shut everybody up. And I don't think we were overboard. This is where I want to have a little debate about this. Last week was more than Tyreek Stevenson. You had players in different interview settings, from podcasts to paid radio appearances, openly question coaching decision-making. Right? Yeah. Kevin Byard for not defending. He was critical of Eberflus for not defending the play before the Hail Mary. Jalen Johnson for not calling a timeout before the Hail Mary. DJ Moore as well, Cole Kmet, and your show, talking about respecting the game and whatnot in terms of Tyreek Stevenson. So, and then you had them like DJ Moore later in the week saying that, Matt Eberflus asked us to keep some of this stuff in house. That is like a storyline when what you're saying to us, the media, to fans, is now being asked to keep in house by the head coach. So that was part of last week. Like Kevin Byard expressing regret, not for how he felt about the call that preceded the Hail Mary, but because of how he handled it publicly, about how he spoke about it publicly with the media, in the media, again, a conduit to the fans, as opposed to keeping that inside, keep family business, as he later said.
Yeah, and I thought I was surprised when he went there on that Monday conference call. But that being said, they were right. The players were saying the same thing that all the fans and all the people in the media were saying. The defense calls there at the end of the game were terrible. Call timeout. It was just poorly executed. And I thought the thing that probably hurt them the most was that the head coach didn't admit it.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, you lost on a freaking Hail Mary.
Yeah.
Those don't happen. You're going to be a national story.
With one of your best players having his back to the play.
Yes.
Come on. If anybody's saying anybody went overboard last week, that's overboard. It was one of the most ridiculous losses. It was one of the most ridiculous fallouts. The 24 hours later, to do interview after interview and be like, no, those yards didn't matter. I didn't need to call timeout. We were set. You're just lying to your fans. You know what I mean? So nothing last week was overboard. But I do, getting back to what you bringing this up was that I think all of that contribute to it lingering throughout the week and not allowing them to move on. And then they no-showed in Arizona.
Caleb Williams did it himself.
Yeah. And
then you saw a 53-yard touchdown run, which may be worse than the Hail Mary. I'll give you another Tory Taylor performance. You heard it in the voicemails where there are audible gasps in the press box when he kicks. It's sometimes just so impressive where now you have the opposing media now seeing it for the first time live, and they're just like, oh my God. That's 2 weeks in a row that the rookie punter has done that, first in Washington and then in Arizona.
That was the first game I've ever seen it hail in the middle of the game, especially in a stadium that has a retractable roof. I was wondering about that. I was tracking the roof thing. We obviously talked about it on Friday because I, selfishly wanted the roof to be open. We're in Arizona. The weather's nice. You have a roof. But I was looking at the weather forecast the last few days, and it was very consistently saying that it was going to rain in the middle of that game at some point. And so all of a sudden it's hailing.
Of course, during one of the Bears' better drives of the game as well.
Well, yeah. Oh, Greg Braggs was very upset that they left the roof open for the Bears drive, but then closed it when the Cardinals got the ball. He thought that was very suspicious.
To be fair, you know how long it takes them to close that?
I heard 7 minutes.
Yeah. 7 minutes is a long time in an NFL game.
Yeah. It'd be a long drive for the Bears too, to have the ball going for 7 minutes. Yeah. All right. I don't know. You got anything else here?
Yeah. I don't like how the injuries keep adding up.
Oh, it's bad. Yeah.
Andrew Billings with the chest injury. That's not good. Not good, especially when he's ruled out immediately. Darnell Wright leaving with a knee injury.
Yeah, and I think Ian Rappaport said that's an MCL with an MRI coming today to determine the severity.
Yeah, not good. And then you had Terrell Smith, who started in place of Stevenson, leaving with an ankle.
And quickly ruled out too. Before we get to the super chats, yeah, on that front, that's another problem inside Hallis this morning. If they are going to consider changes, their offensive line right now is I don't even know what they do, because it looks like a very good likelihood that, I mean, at least how it looks Monday, that Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright could both be out next week. I feel like at that point, I don't know if Ryan Bates is going to be back, but if he is, I probably put Matt Pryor out at right tackle and have Bates play right guard.
Off that, can I say one more dislike? I don't like that Caleb Williams.
It's going to be, yeah, we're going to say the same thing here.
I don't like that Caleb Williams was kept in throughout the game.
Yeah.
I don't care much for what Matt Eberflus said in terms of situational. It's different. It's a route. Everything the Cardinals are doing is going to be different than they would actually do if the game was meaningful in those moments.
Well, yeah. So he said that he wanted him in there for a 2-minute situation in garbage time. Like, what the hell? Like, what? That was another one of those, like, just shake your head. Like, what are you talking about? It was the moment where it would have been completely understandable to just let Bajent play the rest of that game, was the second that ball got downed at the half-yard line on that card. That was a great play by that gunner, by the way, to catch it and keep it right there and somehow not go into the end zone. But right there, you're in you could just feel that safety coming, right? Like they were gonna get 2 points in that situation with how the Bears were playing offensively. And really, from any point from there to the end of the game, especially at the end, it made no sense to have Caleb in there. And sure enough, he got gator rolled and was limping off the field at the end of the game.
It should be a warning. The Bears are fortunate that he got, like he said afterwards, that he's okay. I bet you he's a bit sore today. Maybe he's limited in a Wednesday practice because he's your quarterback and he tended to be scrambling around a lot and making these exciting plays. No, I don't like that at all. There's no situation in my book that warrants keeping him out there behind a battered offensive line in a game that is surely in hand.
All right, let's Kent, let's go to these supers here and we'll close out. We got a few. Whatever order you want to go in, we'll read them. We got old man on the computer internet, $5. I'm going crazy. I didn't understand how you or anyone can keep defending this quarterback. He sucks. Bench him. Put in Bajent. Let Caleb learn on the bench.
They're not going to bench him.
Look, I don't know that anybody's defending Caleb right now. I said that was his worst game, and I thought there were guys open early in the game. I thought those guys became less open as the game went on, but I thought particularly that first drive could have easily been a touchdown drive. He missed a couple guys who were open. So we're not defending Caleb at this point. I'm disappointed that his progress, that there hasn't been more progress. I do think he's extremely talented. I do think that he's at a level that can survive being a Bear. I mean, we're just being honest with it. Usually doesn't go well. That was the big fear, right, of him coming to Chicago. But I also think it's fair to say at the same time the Bears aren't really doing their part right now to put him consistently in position to have success, especially when you consider the talent.
Yeah.
I mean, Cole Kmet having one target the last 2 games is just unbelievable.
Yeah, I think you'll see examples on film where he needs to get through his checkdowns. I think he overthrew a couple passes as well, but to me, it's finding what works, and that's Shane Waldron's job. And I think the frustrations that you're seeing from the Bears seems to imply that things aren't clicking. At least from an offensive game plan perspective. That's why you have all these tough conversations with the team leaders coming up. That's why you have their suggestions being shown on the field. That's why there's just, again, more red flag storylines, through the first 8 games here. But some of this is on Caleb. I thought at times he tried to play hero ball a bit too much against the Cardinals, where he could just take, again, the checkdowns or get the ball out quick. Like his completion percentage to me, I don't want to say it's in an alarming level right now, but it's not good. He completed 41.7% of his passes in Washington, and yesterday was 53.7%. For a long while, I think it was floating around 50% against the Cardinals. That's just not good.
But that's something as an OC you can help. Like you can give him, it goes back to the low percentage throws I'm talking about. They're scheming up routes that are just not high percentage. Like you can fix that. That's something that you have control over as a coaching staff. Fix it and run the ball better too. All right, bear down Omaha $2. This Flus is cooked. Time to move on. 100%. Next one, how I commit your mother with £5 sterling. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. It might not be very Bears to fire Flus, but it's what's needed.
Man, that first line is poetic.
I know. I almost want to read it again. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got.
That's so good. I like that.
That's fantastic. All right, Ian's up next, $10. I'm from Arizona. Almost no one cares about the Cardinals. Bear down. You know what, Ian? We got a pretty good Cardinal show on PHNX, and people do care. Just not to the level of all the Bears fans that invaded your area in Arizona. Daniel Trump, $10. Haven't been watching, but wanted to chime in. Don't they need to make a trade to improve the O-line so that Caleb survives? This is simple stuff. Well, that's another wrinkle in all this, too, in the next 24 hours is the trade deadline.
Yeah, I just don't. It's very rare that you see quality offensive linemen with starting experience or starter's potential, or just a simple starter, get moved at the deadline. It doesn't happen. Too many teams have injuries. Too many teams have young quarterbacks to protect, or any quarterback to protect. They're just too valuable. I just don't see it happening.
If Billings is out for a significant amount of time, and perhaps for the year, I wonder if they would add some defensive tackle help.
Yeah, I don't know though, but like, what are you going to give up?
Yeah.
Like, maybe you just cut your losses and maintain the long-term vision of your team.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I think you could argue that instead of addition right now, subtraction might be the better thing. Aaron Bushnell, $10. We need coaches that can develop Caleb away from playing hero ball, taking more checkdowns, and relying on Kmet and Swift more would help a lot.
I was just talking about this. It looks like Aaron and I are thinking in a similar way here. There was some hero ball like plays trying to be made by Caleb Williams against the Cardinals. It didn't look good. And then on the other side, I thought you saw Kyler Murray. Like he was quick to check it down. And some of those checkdowns turned into 8, 9, 10, 12, first downs when tackles weren't made in the open field. Like those plays, getting the ball to your playmakers with a little bit of space are just as valuable as pushing the ball down the field, for 20 to 30 yards. You have to take what the defense gives you sometimes as part of playing quarterback in the NFL. And I agree with Aaron. Like part of that's on Caleb, but part of that is on the coaching staff, starting with Shane Waldron, to get him to that point. To get him to that. Oh God, I'm about to quote Matt Nagy. Touchdown to check down mentality. Oh God. Yeah, I mean, podcast's over. I can't believe I that's what came to mind. I'm sorry, everybody.
Well, that's where we're at. Unfortunately, a familiar place that we've been. We'll see what it all looks like when the dust settles. By the time we come back to you in 48 hours, the trade deadline will be over. The election probably won't be over, but that will have happened. And I don't know. It might be a whole different world. My gut tells me all the same people will be employed at Hallis Hall, though. And at least the New England Patriots are on the schedule this week. That could also be a bad thing, though, Because I guarantee you they were saying that in New Orleans last week. At least the Carolina Panthers are on the schedule. And then they lost.
If Drake May outplays Caleb Williams,
oof.
I that would be like beyond fireable. Like I think maybe even George McCaskey would consider changing the way he does business in terms of what's next for his football team.
All right, that's going to do it for us from the desert. Again, thank you to everybody that stopped by, said hello at any point. If I shook your hand, just know that genuinely we appreciate all the support, the amount of Bears fans from all over Johns that listen to this show. I met a couple guys from Alaska.
I stopped by. Alaska? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're taking credit for that. Johns did technically stop by. The shows were over. There was like 5 people left.
I met Kelly and Brian. Yeah, I was there. Yes, there's pictures, there's videos, there's video proof.
You hit the over, technically. I don't know what the cutoff was, but you were there. No, but for real, we appreciate it. And we'll be back Wednesday. We'll keep this thing going. We'll see what's different, if anything. But the Bears obviously have to win this week. You got to get to 5-4 somehow, whatever it looks like. But you definitely got to fix this quarterback situation and put him in a much better position to have success and develop. Make sure you were reading all of Johnsy's work, theathletic.com/Hoge Jahns. Got all the reaction up from the stadium yesterday with Kevin Fishbane, who was in town too. You can find all of our stuff at CHGO, and we will be live coming to you at 1 p.m. Central. We're actually going to head over to the PHNX studios here and do our show there today. So got more Bears coverage, and by then we'll have heard from Flus and some players this morning too. So hopefully you'll tune in for that. We'll talk to you on Wednesday morning here, though, on Hoge Jahns.
See ya.